Last week, I saw a clip on YouTube of Iron Man working with his AI Jarvis, and I thought, is it really possible to have an assistant like that at home? And here's what I found. This YouTuber created the first real-life Jarvis and used the voice of Paul Bettany himself, the British actor who voices the actual Jarvis from the Marvel films. He did that by hooking up all voice samples of the actor in interviews where he had actually spoken himself. At first, it was hard because Bettany stuttered in many interviews. But then he discovered the 11 Labs tool, which is a prime AI text-to-speech tool for cloning voices. Using the samples from the 11 Labs subreddit, he created a perfect Jarvis voice clone. Next, knowing that ChatGPT alone has been solving the world's toughest problems, it's obvious that it would make the best candidate for the formal and polite voice Jarvis uses all the time when addressing Tony Stark. For the brains, he used code to connect with Selenium, an open-source software testing tool that allows testers to automate in any programming language of their choice. Using this tool, he connected ChatGPT with the voice samples. But note that in the present day, ChatGPT users can skip most of these steps and just use the ChatGPT API to create their own Jarvis assistant by having it link with the internet directly. Anyways, by the time he finished, he could talk to ChatGPT and it would reply with the voice of Paul Bettany, aka Jarvis, so one could say that he created a perfect real-life Jarvis clone in his computer.
How are you, Jarvis?
Good, and how are you doing today, sir?
I'm good too. Thanks for asking.
Well, you are the one who created me, so you must have programmed this response into me.
But remember that Siri and Alexa are pretty much like assistants for the house, and this woman used them to create a real Jarvis. She did that by connecting ChatGPT with Alexa and creating the smartest personal assistant ever. She figured out that she could do it by turning her speech into text, feeding it to ChatGPT, and having a voice synthesizer feed the ChatGPT answers to Alexa. Much like the original Jarvis, this tool is always at your beck and call. You have a personal librarian, researcher, and fact-checker all in one. For the first experiment, she tried it on her laptop. Using OpenAI's Whisper app, she managed to turn her text into speech. But how to feed it to ChatGPT and get answers? Simply through the ChatGPT API. But in her case, the ChatGPT API wasn't available to the public yet, so she connected it with Siri on her phone. Using the iPhone's shortcut app, she created a shortcut to get her voice input, post it to GPT-3, get the answers, and read it out to the public. By doing this, she spoke to Siri on her phone, and the reply was actually from Jarvis after she used the command Get Jarvis. Using ChatGPT's intelligence, it could hold any conversation with her. She even tested it out in Chinese, and it worked out perfectly, meaning that like the real Jarvis, it could understand any language its user spoke.
Get Jarvis.
This is Jarvis speaking.
Are you better than Alexa?
Question mark. No, Alexa is much better than me.
This guy, McKay Wrigley, took the same formula as the girl to the next level. Basically, he connected Siri with the shortcut for the Jarvis connected with GPT-4 to create a real-time coding assistant. Since the formula isn't perfect yet, he still has to use the Run Jarvis command with Siri to get access to it, and in this case, it replies using the voice of Siri instead of the British voice. But on the other hand, it can be commanded to do practically anything through live chat, even come up with complex code to fulfill each and every one of the commands, or send emails. Even more powerful than this is a tool that only needs one command to know everything you need.
So this time I want a basic social networking app, and it needs to have three things. It needs to have a profile creation form, it needs to have a profile viewer.
You want a basic social networking app that includes a profile creation page, a profile viewer, and a list of all the users. What would you like the profiles to have?
Let's keep it kind of simple. Let's just do a name, an email, and a username.
And then I found an AI called AutoGPT. This is probably the closest tool I've seen to artificial general intelligence, basically an AI that can accomplish any intellectual task that humans or animals can perform all on its own. To better understand what it does, remember that to get a complex answer from ChatGPT in the past, you needed to use many prompts to coax the response from it. So it's not as easy as just telling it to create a website and having it do it. Through AutoGPT, no one needs to think of a prompt ever again. One of its main applications is Baby AGI, which spawns new AI agents that complete complex tasks without losing the original objective. Connect that with the other two experiments we saw, and you might not even have to use different commands to get Jarvis to do something. You'll just tell the assistant to complete a task, and they'll come up with their own commands to get it done on their own. Anyways, I think that as an autonomous AI agent, these prototype Jarvis experiments can revolutionize many industries and impact human jobs, privacy, and security. But it also has its limitations due to the technology it's based on. First, both of these would-be Jarvis assistants are highly dependent on GPT-4 tokens. In the case of OpenAI's GPT models, including ChatGPT, the maximum number of tokens the model can handle in a single interaction is limited. When you make a request to ChatGPT, the text you provide as input counts towards the token limit. The model's response also contributes to the token count. For example, if your conversation has 10 tokens and you receive a 20-token response, you will be billed for a total of 30 tokens. If a conversation exceeds the model's token limit, you need to shorten it to fit within the token limit. Token usage increases the costs when using API services, since you are billed based on the number of tokens processed. The longer the conversation, the more expensive for you. On top of that, while GPT-4 is more accurate than any past iterations, it's not 100% free of hallucinations. Thus, Jarvis itself could be subject to making up facts, using flawed logic, or coming up with wrong sources. Imagine asking Jarvis a question and having it confidently tell you something that's false. You might not notice because of the trust you already put in it, but you'll have to always be on the lookout for false information. And finally, GPT-4 is limited by its training data, so the Jarvis clone might also be limited if you ask it questions with answers based on information beyond September 2021. So yeah, while its performance is nothing short of impressive, it's more accurately like a prototype of the fictional Jarvis than a perfect clone. But we could very well get there once the other apps start growing. But even with these limitations, we can already come up with some more complex use cases combining physical robots with the Jarvis AI. What would happen when you install this intelligent model into a robot? You get something like Anna, the smart companion and household robot. Anna's a semi-human-shaped robot that can easily move around the house using its wheels and can be controlled by humans remotely to open the dishwasher or clean the floor intelligently. If you've been watching our videos for a while, you'll probably remember our female wife robots from this video. Well, while Anna here doesn't resemble a human much right now, the future could be a lot different, and newer versions of her could exist that does resemble a human wife. Most importantly, if one were to connect the same voice synthesizers we saw in the previous experiments, it would be easy to obtain a robot that also doubles as assistants. In humanity's defense, that's something Tony Stark never did in movies, as Jarvis wasn't used to power a robot's AI.